So the silver lining and the bright spot that you can see is mas mataas ang awareness. And that probably even translates to public pressure on our leaders and our various sectors to clean up their act. But beyond that, in terms of action, in terms of policy, you don't actually see any bright spots. I mean, just going back to my point.
Yeah. Okay. So in terms of policies, there's a saying that we have one of the best environmental policies.
Okay.
Like we have the Clean Air Act of 1999. We have the Solid Waste Management Act of for the past 2 decades, and at the same time we have the Renewable Energy Act of 2009. What is lacking right now is a thorough implementation of these laws. So for example, sa usapin ng energy. So usapin ng energy, ang nangyayari ngayon sa Pilipinas ay we have a Renewable Energy Act, and yet there's a lot of coal-fired power plants that's being pushed, no? Almost more than 30 ngayon ang nasa pipeline that will threaten yung coastlines natin and the people who are living near these facilities.
Well, that was a campaign issue, di ba? Tinanong yan dun sa mga candidate, and they were saying, well, we have to balance our needs to develop at affordable cost and to pick a clean energy, which they say is expensive. Tama ba yun? Is there science behind it? That green energy is more expensive and we cannot afford it at this point. So pinayagan nila yung 30 coal-fired power plants na yan.
Yeah, actually those are old mindsets in terms of renewable energy, because right now we're at a point that alternatives, solar and wind and even hydro, are now more cheaper compared to coal. And then we should also take into account ano yung environmental and health impacts ng mga fossil fuel-based energy. At ang pinaka-importante dito, ang mga coal na ginagamit natin, hindi yan galing sa Pilipinas. 88% ay galing sa Indonesia. So, exposed siya sa market prices that we cannot dictate. And these things are exposing us to more risk in terms of surging prices and, of course, environmental and health impacts.
So how do you illustrate that when you say that actually solar is actually at a point where it's actually more affordable, cheaper? If I were to switch my household to a completely solar-powered household, how much will it cost me?
In terms of the actual, if you want 100% renewable energy, it will cost more than around, depends on your usage.
May aircon.
Yeah, aircon.
May aircon, may ilaw, may refrigerator, may
TV, marami.
So
internet.
It's a huge investment at first. Of course, it will range around more than 200,000 depending on your usage, of course. Pero kung gumagamit ka lang naman ng isang ilaw at isang electric fan, kahit yung mga solar panels lang sa mall, pwede mo nang gamitin, which is less than 10 or even ngayon, mga 6,000 pesos na ng mga solar panel. But we should look, if you are a
but the
huge
200,000, for example, let's say that's a reasonable na.
But that's on the low side, I think.
That's a very, very small. I mean,
Otherwise, we'll all be buying it.
what's the investment for that? What's the ROI for that? Because may maintenance cost yan, di ba? I've read somewhere that after a few years, you're going to have to, I don't know if it's
replace
true.
your deep cycle batteries, which are quite expensive.
Diba?
Yung
May mga
batteries.
cost. But ang sa akin lang is, I want to understand, if this is true, going to Ami's point, why aren't more people doing it?
Yeah, I would love to have solar
diba?
panels.
So there must be something in the math that either is not really adding up, or we're just not communicating it well enough. So that's why, can you communicate it better? How much to switch entire households and to make sense na, over 1 year, mas mura yan kaysa sa babayaran ko.
Yeah.
And is the technology actually there?
Because 200,000 for a very small, for me,
don't think-
is a pretty steep. If you're saying that's what solar costs, it doesn't add up to, it doesn't jibe with your initial statement that solar is now cheaper than traditional.
So the basis for that, so those are off-grid solar. No? So if we base it on the current market, no, so ngayon kasi binibase sa mga PPAs. So those are prices na nakalagay doon kung ano siya per kilowatt hour. So the cheapest now, if you look at the prices, it's solar. Ang lumalabas, actually 2 years ago, there was a contract between Solar Philippines and Meralco that puts the price per kilowatt hour at 2.99 pesos. per kilowatt hour, way cheaper than coal, no? So kasi ang price ng coal is
To
around
generate.
to generate. So these are ito na yung mga distributors that have the capacity to provide solar sa mga solar farms, and they put it on the grid, no? So in the current system, if we look at yung sa system ng electricity natin, not on the household level. So
You're
lalabas
talking
yun.
economies of scale.
Yes. So we're talking, ang lumalabas mas mura ang solar in terms of market prices right now. But in terms of household, definitely there's a huge investment at first.
Yeah,
but
a huge capital investment.
In the long run, it will eventually pay off itself.
How long?
No?
How long around?
Usually around 5 years.